Back in North Carolina, we find ourselves in Asheville. This city hasn't been too kind to malls over the years, with Innsbruck quietly closed, and the Biltmore Square getting redeveloped years ago. The Asheville Mall, however, is still going. Let's see how that's getting along. Spearheaded by a company known as R.L. Coleman and Company, the mall would open over a series of stages, with Sears kicking the mall off in February 1972, and then the mall itself in November 1973. Original anchors would be Bon Marche and Belk to join Sears. Despite opening, the mall was met with stiff resistance from the city officials and even threats from nearby property owners shortly after construction began in 1970. To outline the controversies surrounding the mall, the first was the typical city council meetings and investigations over the mall property. But as time went on, two more extreme events happened. The first involved a lady who drew a shotgun on a bulldozer operator with her husband backing her up, threatening the bulldozer operator with, "You keep that dozer where it belongs, and we'll keep the shotgun where it belongs." Given how cramped space is in the mountains, I imagine citizens were concerned of the mall encroaching on their land, as you can't just blow a mountain down in the city. The second bit of controversy involved an S-35 Sikorsky helicopter crashing into the roof of a still under construction Woolworth in the mall. The helicopter was being used to install AC units when it stalled and crash landed atop the Woolworth building with damage to the rotors. Fortunately, the pilot was able to land with no injuries, but maybe some brown pants. This required bracing the roof and bringing in a special crane to lift the crashed helicopter. With these two incidents documented and highlighted, it makes you wonder if this mall was being built on an ancient burial ground. At least there were no injuries or fatalities reported, as far as I could find. Despite these hardships along the way, R.L. Coleman was able to open the mall, and it became a staple to Asheville. Over the years, Ivy's would sign on as a fourth anchor, and with the mall gaining popularity, it would be expanded to wrap around Belk with JCPenney signing on as a fifth anchor. Bon Marche didn't last all that long, and would turn over between a Meyers-Arnold store and then Upton's. Montgomery Ward would be the next tenant to sign on in Bon Marche's place in 1994. As some side quirks, due to the way the mall rules were set up, the Asheville Mall hosted the only Chick-fil-A in the company that would operate on Sundays. Additionally, another expansion in 2000 would bring forth another mall corridor as well as a food court, leading the mall to surround Belk on three sides. And in 1997, CBL and Associates would buy the mall. Montgomery Ward didn't last very long, and would fold in 2000 before the company died in 2001. Dillard saw an opportunity and took over the space to operate a dual anchor setup, with the old Ivy's space becoming a women's store, while the Montgomery Ward space would become a Dillard's men, home, and children's store. Overall, it seems Asheville Mall was doing quite well. In 2017, CBL and Associates announced that the Asheville Mall would be undergoing extensive renovations and receiving an update to its image. Although this would worry many enthusiasts of older mall architecture, I can assure you that this is actually a step up, as pictures depicted Asheville Mall back in the 2000s as heavily carpeted and rather dreary inside. We'll speak more of the mall's current look later on. Meanwhile, the Sears at this mall would be sold off to Seritage Growth Properties in 2015 before closing in 2018. Unless you live under a rock, you had to have seen this one coming from a mile away. Latest plans for the old Sears is to eventually demolish the building and build apartments in its place. Although a little odd, this would be a necessary move given how little space there is in the mountains. Enter today, and at least as of May 2021, the Asheville Mall is still holding its own, maintaining the two Dillard's stores, Belk, and JCPenney as primary anchors, while Old Navy, H&M, Ulta Beauty, and Barnes & Noble operate as junior anchors. However, this mall is left in an uncertain future as its parent company, CBL and Associates, has filed for bankruptcy recently. It is expected that Asheville Mall will be sold to another owner or the bank, though no further developments on this have manifested at this time. Nonetheless, we shall see how the Asheville Mall does going forward. After all, these are some trying times. So, let's talk about this mall's look first off. Normally, I can't stand modern designs like this, but there is something about Asheville Mall. It's still not my favorite look, but I can at least tolerate it without hating life. Whoever CBL had on for the renovations at least did a good job making it a somewhat tasteful modern design. Although I believe part of its appeal comes from that janky layout of the main corridor, with each expansion looking a little different from the previous. The wide open spaces of the original corridor from Sears to Belk contrasted to that tiny dark wraparound to JCPenney, and then the slightly bigger but still dark expansion to the food court. This leads to a single floor mall feeling much bigger than it might actually be. Although technically you could count that funky walkway near Belk and Dillard's as a second floor. Apologies for not walking back the entire length of the mall. It's just too damn big. However, while this was captured near opening hours, I can see this mall being quite busy with all of its offerings, from the food court to Barnes & Noble. Add on that most of the anchors are still occupied, and the corridors are tenanted with some pretty notable tenants like Box Lunch. It seems that the Asheville Mall could have some staying power. Additionally, the mall can benefit from seeing a ton of traffic, as Tunnel Road and Interstate 240 are still busy thoroughfares, and with Route 74 established as one of the city's main retail corridors, I could see this mall holding its own for several more years. But of course, things have a way of surprising me within just a few months, so who knows, I could be wrong. My optimism could be hopelessly misguided like it is for everything else in this world. Now, despite personal issues I have with Asheville, this is still a popular city for people to move into. The city population is growing last I checked, so the mall can see a small benefit in that. And while space is still an issue up in the mountains, you can see construction crews adapting to that land and sorting out apartment blocks right there on the hillside. Progress must continue, I suppose. We are getting ready to wrap up and head off. So, what did you guys think about this mall? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you believe it has a bright future? Or am I a misguided hopeful? Do share your thoughts in the comments below. Asheville is typically ignored now that Innsbruck is closed and Biltmore Square is replaced with some outdoor outlet center. So it would be interesting to get a conversation going about Asheville Mall. Thanks for having me, Asheville. And until next time, this is Doomie Grunt wishing you and your very own mall farewell and good luck in this mad, mad, mad world.